I'm a man of Manethrin, and I approve this message.
What is like what are we doing? Like what is happening?
What's up, everybody? Welcome to, I think this is episode 22 of Chillporeal. And with me, I have the man from the future, the Aussie, the Wheel of Time fan, the book cloak, the proud to be book cloak, Aldan. What's up, Aldan? Thanks for joining me.
No worries. No worries there, man.
So how you doing?
I'm doing good, mate. I'm glad to be here. Sorry, I just had to turn something off in the background.
Do you like
yes.
that? I saw you dancing to that intro.
That was bad. Oh, the boppy little Nintendo music is pretty cool, man.
It's from the old Tiny Toons game that I used to play when I was a kid. So I was listening to the soundtrack and I heard that particular track. I'm like, that could be a good jingle for my streams.
Yeah.
And people have liked it. So
it's a win up.
So Aldan, before we even go any further, I want to say hello to the chat. So we got my brother, my intellectual brother from another mother, Gadfly Fiction. And we got the young Staplebow, and we got Awesome here. What's up, gentlemen? Thanks for joining. So, Aldan, I gotta ask you. By the way, thanks for doing this. I know you're. It's like early in the morning. It's early morning for you. So,
it's lunchtime. That's why I cracked a beer.
It's crack a beer. Oh, nice.
Yeah.
We can't drink at work.
Yeah, I can't because I work from home now since the COVID bullshit. So
yeah,
I've got to pick the kids up in about 3 hours. So I can't get drunk, but I can drink.
Okay, cool. So I got a question. Like, I'm curious how long we've known each other. I think I know you either through Prophet of the Dragon or through Salty, one of the two.
Yeah, I don't know, man. I mean, I found this particular fandom, the Dissidents, through Salty originally. I sort of had like a come to Jesus moment, I guess, during season 1, where I was like, I really wanted it to be good. I was full of copium. I didn't want to accept the fact that we were seeing a desecration of something that I loved.
Yeah,
and I found Salty by that, mate. So it could have been that, or it could have been Steve. I don't know.
I mean, it was not just. I mean, it wasn't just you. Prophet was the same way. I was listening to some of his earlier stuff, and he felt the same way. He wanted to like this. I mean, we don't go into these things because we want to hate it. We don't go in these things, because hate, drives clicks and all that. We go into this because we want to like it. And if we don't like it, we're going to speak our minds, and we want to be heard. Whenever people talk, they want to be heard. And so when Hollywood, chooses not to hear, well, we're going to keep speaking, and we're going to let other people know how we feel, and let other people know that they're not alone. That's the one thing. Even when I especially with the Star Wars: The Force Awakens, I thought I was nuts because everyone else seemed to like it and I didn't.
Yeah, I'll bet you did.
And I thought I was nuts. I was going on YouTube. I've never really scrambled on YouTube to find people that shared my thoughts.
Yeah, because you do need that, don't you? Because otherwise you do get not confused, but you do really start to ask the question of like, am I wrong, or is something wrong with me head? Like what's going on here, right? Am I seeing something differently? Have I just lost the ability to interpret media all of a sudden, or is this like actually really bad?
Or to enjoy it. I mean, with me with Star Trek, I mean, I'm a big Star Trek. You can see Deep Space Nine right there. I have Voyager, and I have Next Generation. So I grew up loving that franchise, and then I'm watching the new shows. The new shows are terrible, but then there's this one season called Picard season 3, that I may or may not have done with Steve that everybody said was a return to form. Everybody, even all the bigger channels were saying that. It was better, but not by much. I mean, it was more entertaining if you completely turn off your brain. But if you're a Star Trek fan, you're gonna be like, this is not the same thing.
Yeah, that's what we forget. You sort of get like space between what built the thing that you fell in love with, and what happens now, and then we got a whole bunch of junk in between there. I guess that can be this like, you can accept something that's less than what it should be. I think maybe there's a bit of that going on. I don't know, man. I've never been to Trekkie. Trekkie's not my thing. Star Wars fan for sure, but Star Trek not so much. I'm not gonna lie.
Mm-hmm.
My thing. I do like it. I like the concept, but yeah, I just never really got into it.
Yeah, I mean, if you ever do.
Stepdad, he's a massive Trekkie. We should have got him.
I'm your guy. So.
Yeah.
But I know, like you've been on my Wheel of Time, book club things before. And so I've asked you like how you got into Wheel of Time. I think you said you stole it from the library.
Allegedly.
You allegedly stole it from the library, and then I think that you returned it. And it was, I think it was Eye of the World, right? Eye of the World.
Yeah.
And then how'd you get into the Great Hunt? Like, did you read Great Hunt right away, or was the Great Hunt out?
Yes, the Great Hunt was out. I think I picked it up. Would have been not long after it was started in the 90s, but it wasn't right at the start. So I had until the book you're on now, Shadow Rising, before I had to stop.
Okay, so there were 4 books out by the time you got into the series.
There was 3, and I think the 4th. I think Shadow Rising, if it was a long time ago, if I remember correctly, it was the Shadow Rising came out while I was reading Dragon Reborn from memory. Yep.
Yeah, it came out. I believe it came out in '92. Yeah, because both Great Hunt, Eye of the World, the Great Hunt came out in 1990. Dragon Reborn '91. Shadow Rising '92. Fires of Heaven '93. Lord of Chaos '94, and then after that, it was 2-year gap between books. After that.
That sounds about right, because it would be 90s. Actually, no, man. When was that? Well, yeah, okay. But it's around that time. 92, 93 sounds about right. I was in high school, so yeah.
So what was the first book that you had to anticipate, that you had to wait for?
Lord of Chaos was the first one I had to wait for. Proper wait. Yep.
Okay.
That's my favorite.
So Lord of Chaos seems to be everybody's favorite.
Nah, not everyone's. Most people like the one you're reading now the most.
The Shadow Rising? Okay.
Yeah.
Because I know Nathan says he actually likes Knife of Dreams and the Great Hunt. Knife of Dreams and then the Great Hunt, and then I think Lord of Chaos, I think. But I think everyone else says Lord of the Chaos. So I think Pip said Lord of Chaos. Steve said Lord of Chaos. What's up?
Did he?
Yeah.
Yeah, Pip's definitely likes it. Pip's is like me. I think he likes that one the best.
And
Steve? I didn't think that.
Yeah, Steve said Lord of Chaos. I'm not. I have to ask Alex what his favorite is. Might be Lord of Chaos too. So I'm curious. I'm curious about Lord of Chaos because everyone says that's the best book. So, and I've heard that it starts the slog. I've listened to other channels talk about Wheel of Time, and they say the slog starts with book 6. So I'm curious what you think of that. A lot of people disagree.
Yeah, I think that's bullshit. But by the same token, I think on your first read, it may feel like that. So once you've read the series multiple times, like a lot of us insane people have, there's so much stuff in that Lord of Chaos that you don't really, because there's a valid argument for like later books to say this is like nothing happens for this whole book, right? Like we've gone nowhere. Our main characters have literally gone nowhere. They're just describing the same events from a different perspective for fucking 400,000 pages. That's valid later on. Lord of Chaos, that's not what happens, but it is slower, if that makes sense. So on a first read, it probably does feel a little bit, it probably could feel a little bit sluggy, to be honest. It definitely wasn't my favorite the first time through. Dragon Reborn was my favorite first time through. I love that. I still love that book. But when you go back and when you know the story, and when you go back and you go through it again, the stuff that's in Lord of Chaos is just it's chef's kiss sort of world building stuff, like the fleshing out of the different arcs and the character things. And when you know where they get to later, there's like things that happen in there that would have that you know when you come back and read it, that would have you wouldn't have had this emotional moment in the future, and an emotional moment that really hits, right? And you know that that would not have happened without this legwork that happened here, that you may not have known was actually really cool at the time. But when you go back through it again and you go, oh, fuck, that's why I felt like that 5 years later. And it's like, that's when, like, I think the mastery of Jordan, and he's not the best. I don't think he's the best writer in the world ever by any stretch of anyone's imagination. I know some of the boys do, but I disagree. But when you can see, when you can connect the dots between like an emotion that's like when you read it in real time and it's like 5-6 years down the track, and you can connect it right back to this moment here, which you didn't even notice the first time, right? But you didn't notice it, but subconsciously it's there because emotionally it hits you in 6 years time. So the mastery of the author to be able to plan that and do that and then build to it without you even knowing that it had started back here, but then it like hit over here is, I mean, that's just remarkable stuff. That's mastery of your craft, I reckon.
I've heard that quite a bit about, especially the Eye of the World. Like when you read the entire series, like you go back and read Eye of the World, and there's so many things that set up several books later and all that. So
that's a fact. Yeah, that's a fact. Yep.
So I mean, if I manage to finish the series, God willing, I might go back and read the Eye of the World. I don't know if I'm going to reread the entire series, but I think I might reread Eye of the World because I did really enjoy Eye of the World. And I did really enjoy The Great Hunt. Great Hunt is still my favorite. I still, even though I feel kind of, I feel like this Shadow Rising is very, slow. And there are points where it takes me 4 or 5 different attempts to get through a chapter. And it's just, either I fall asleep or I just put the thing down and I do something else because it's not going anywhere. It's not grabbing me.
That's fair. And it's funny you say that, right? Because like me and my son, and like I've told you, like we're reading The Shadow Rising at the same time as you. Like we're on chapter 38 at the moment.
I just finished chapter 24, by the way.
You just
5 minutes before I got on. So he encounters the other fins. I forgot eelfin and alefin.
Yeah, the foxes this time around. It's cool.
It's funny how they're different. I was like, because like Matt obviously thinks that the foxes do the same thing as the snake people. They don't. The snake people answer questions. The fox people carry out requests.
Other way around, I think, isn't it? The foxes
like do this. He's like, do this. He's like, do this. He's like, I want this done, and they're like, okay, done.
Yeah.
He's like, done. What are you talking about?
Yeah. That's right. He wants questions answered, and they're like, no, we do wishes, but he doesn't know that, and they don't tell him that, but that's what's happening.
Yeah, and then
pretty cool.
And what's funny is at the end of this chapter, and I don't think we see him for a while, so I'm curious. This is a big cliffhanger. They're like, what's going on? What are you doing to me? And they're like, you fool, you haven't agreed on a price. Ha 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 ha. And I'm like, what's the price? The price.
Well, I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you. It's cool. You'll find out. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, I figure. Read and find out. Robert Jordan.
Yeah. No, the next couple you'll find out pretty soon though. So that's a good thing. It's not going to be in like 3 books time.
Yeah, and this morning, what's funny was this morning I got up really early. Like I think I fell asleep at 6 p.m. So a couple hours after I came home from work, and then I slept till like 11 p.m. my time. So I was up for the rest of the night. So I was like, what should I do? I was like, I'll go for a walk, and I'm going to try and finish chapter 23. So I got through chapter 23 and 24 today. So I got through 2 chapters today, which is insane for me. So, but the whole
man. Sorry, go.
The whole Guy Shane thing, where they're like, "What is Guy Shane?" Because they're like, "Oh, they're servants in the Aiel now." And they're like, "No, they're not exactly servants, but they're like," and they explain the Guy Shane. I'm like, "What is this?" Like, so they serve, but yet they have, but when they but they can demand it. They can request it to look better, especially in the eyes of their enemy, to look more
Right.
morally or something. I forget. It's hard to explain. I
It's an
didn't even
honor.
understand it at first.
It's just their concept. It's an honorable thing. Like it's a way that they can reclaim their honor, essentially. And it's they're just slaves, man. I mean, it's no different. They're honestly, there's the it's the oils bent. It's the oils like bent out of shape way of doing slavery without it being slavery. To be honest, and they twist it around so that they justify it in their own minds that I'm doing this for me. But the ultimate effect is still the same. They're still carrying water for someone else. So
Yeah, and I mean, I asked Pips about this. It's basically they want to basically like they basically take captives or something. So instead of
yeah,
killing,
that's the
because
highest. Yep.
killing is like the least honorable thing you can do. The best
Yeah.
thing you can do is just it's like you're playing tag with the enemy.
Yeah.
You ride into their territory. You poke the jerk, or you steal
That's
something. And you run away, and you hightail it out of there.
That's
And
right. I could stab you, but I won't. So that makes that which is actually a pretty cool concept if you think about it. Like the highest form, the highest form of martial prowess is not to kill your opponent; it's to catch him, incapacitate him. Which that's a pretty cool that's pretty. Oh, it's probably true as well. Like that's got to be more difficult. Easy, much harder to like disarm your opponent and then take him captive than it is to just cut his head off. Right? That's sure. that has to be harder. I'll get it, Alex.
so, hey, we just mentioned you. Write in the chat what your favorite Wheel of Time book is. I don't remember if you said Lord of Chaos. I assumed it is, but I don't know if that's true. So definitely write that down. I forget. So, but yeah, but yeah. So but I said this to the boys earlier yesterday. So I finished, or actually earlier this morning. I finished chapter 23, and my takeaway is this is an Egwene chapter. Egwene's like, I am not the main character in this story. Why did they talk to me last? Why couldn't I go to Roydian? Everyone else got to go. Matt got to go. Rand got to go. Even Moraine got to go. Why couldn't I go? Girl, shut up. You listen, attend, and if you fail to understand these points, you're going to be washing and scrubbing pots instead of the guy Shane.
Yep.
So
yep. It's
and then
great,
they go into the hotel around Riyadh. So I mean, to me, so Egwene is basically going to Dagobah to learn from Yoda or Amis. So
yeah, fact. She's going to Dagobah to learn about dream. Yeah, that's right, man. It's about the dream force.
So I know you can't say anything, but like, so the chapter where she's in Tanchico, or she's in Teleron Riyadh's version of Tanchico,
yes.
I am curious how that's going to pay off with. So Amis says that there's something evil in this city, and earlier throughout the book, everyone's saying, don't go to Tanchico, don't go to Tanchico. Lan is like, don't go to Tanchico. And they're like, we gotta go because that's what the Black Aja told us to. And then they got the Black Aja, the two prisoners got silent, they got killed. So they're going, and so Moraine bullies Tom Maryland to go with them.
How good is that scene, man?
That was probably the best scene in that block of chapters that I read. Yeah. I mean, that in chapter 15, I can't deny Dane. Dane said chapter 15, the one where Matt goes into the doorway. And
that's rad. That is rad.
That was I thought that was funny. He just keeps asking questions, and the snake people are like, yes, please go.
Yes.
And he keeps asking questions. They're like, okay, now go.
He's like, answer my question. Like, I did answer your question.
We did answer your question. Then they carry him. off. It's like, put me down, you bastards. So
it'd be cool. It'd be cool. That's where like it would be so cool to have an anime of this. I know we've talked about this, right? But Matt, these are the things that you could do with an anime. It'd be so sick. It'd be unbelievably cool.
The freaking
scene in particular.
Yeah, the wheel of Prime can't even pull off, levitating. Like the character, like the Forsaken, can levitate. They can walk on air. Rand walks on air and fights Balsamon in the sky. Why couldn't they do that? Like
I don't know. There's no. You know, they could have. They could have done it. They chose not to. They didn't.
yeah,
they,
I'm like
they,
that was
they
what
could have
pissed
done
me
what-
off the most. I mean, especially about that final episode of season 2. It was just I'm
Yeah,
like,
that-
why would you change this? Like even the Game of Thrones guys, they put the best parts of books 4 and 5 and all the books in the show, except for maybe one battle that they couldn't afford in the first season. But they put all the highlighted parts of the books in the show. Here they don't even do that. Like, what's the point? Why even make a
Well,
show?
They're not telling the same story. So that's really what it is.
It's another turning of the wheel.
Well, it's just not the
Fuck
same.
off.
That's not even right either. It's not. It's literally
not.
not this. It's literally not the same story, and I guess that's what's offensive about it mostly. There's a lot of things to get offended about, and the drunker you get, the more offended you get. But it's the fact that it's just not. G'day, Dempsey. It's the fact that it's not the same story. Like at its heart, at its core, that's the thing. That's the part that is offensive to me, anyway. Yeah.
Appreciate it, Louise. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'll say this: the book club streams have been the highlight of my Chillporeal career, so to speak. So
The book club's dreams.
it's been fun. So I mean, I want to keep this going. So I'm trying to tell myself, hey, I was following Nathan, your advice. I was following Nathan's advice just to read it and just take it in and try to enjoy it. And yeah. So
just keep going. The bits that stick out, you'll notice the bits that stick out, but you don't have to take it all in. It's practically impossible, right? If you want to read word for word and get every single thing that's happening, like for your first time through, I don't think, it's not going to happen. So you just enjoy it. The parts that stick out will stick out for you. And then by the time you get back to the finish, when you get like a retrospective and you can look back on the totality, it's an experience that I can't even describe how amazing it is, right? But you have to get there. And if you're like trying to like dissect every word as you go, you're not going to get there because some of those words are fucking like filler. They really are. Like when you go through like the 15th gold-plated button on someone's bodice and like how it's
Slated Roofs. Slated Roofs was the dragon. Was in the Dragon Reborn like how many times?
Yeah, that's what I mean. And if you go back and rewind if you fall asleep and you go, shit, I might have missed something, and you go back and rewind it, and then you're like, oh, yes, and there's 15 buttons and a slated roof again, and you're like, fuck this, I'm done. So don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah. I'll definitely keep that in mind. So you said Dragon Reborn is your favorite. Is it because of a particular?
It was my favorite. Like when I first read it, that's
but then before Lord of Chaos.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So, but Dragon Reborn has your favorite scene though, because I remember that. So it does. So when Matt basically, for the first time, shows that he is formidable with the quarterstaff.
Well, it's not that. It's it's that whole sequence, but it's the when he's jailbreak out of Tarvalon. That when his luck kicks in, that fucking chapter, that's the best Matt scene I reckon for the entire series. Just about, well, in my opinion, people have different opinions, but I love it. Like that when the luck kicks in, and it's sparked by Rand. Really, the fact that you've got the two Taviran, and Matt's just like coming into his luck, and you've got Rand doing his thing like affecting at the same time. And it's just this like cacophony of like fucking like chaos, really, like complete chaos. And like how Matrim Cawthorn like rides that chaos, if that makes sense, and the decisions he makes to ride the chaos, it's brilliant stuff. And the way I love it. I really do love it. Yeah.
I gotta ask you, when does he get the hat? Because I don't think he has the hat at this particular in the Shadow Rising. At least I don't think he does. He has the coat, but I don't think he doesn't have the hat.
He gets it in this book. I won't tell you when because you're about to read it pretty soon.
Oh, okay.
Yep, he gets it.
So, one thing about the Shadow Rising because I did look ahead the chapters and who's going to be in it and everything. So obviously the Waste and Egwene's training, and of course Rand and Matt being among the Aiel. That's one storyline, and then Perrin is going back to the to the Two Rivers. That I'm actually really looking forward to, because I'm curious, because there's a lot of, especially in the next block for the next book club, there's like 7 or 8 chapters in a row of just Perrin,
and it's all good stuff.
So because one thing I was curious about since reading Eye of the World, I'm like, what has happened to, I want to reconnect with Tam Althor and Bran Elvire and the Coplans and the Congers and Sen Bui and the women's circle and those toxic Terran fairy people.
Yeah, fuck those guys.
I like how in the beginning of Shadow Rising, the Terran fairy people say that the people in Emmons Field are dark friends. They hate them that much.
Yeah.
And then Padden Fane is Ordith and everything. Telling Pedro Nile that everyone in the Emmons Field is a nest of dark friends, and that's where Randall Thor and all of them are from. I speaking of Padden Fane, the one thing, and I said this to you in DMs. The one thing I didn't like about the Great Hunt, or one thing, and I've said this on the book club too, was that Padden Fane wasn't part of that final part of the book, because you get all this built up to, we will see each other. We will see each other at Toman's Head. The war is never over, Althor. And then he's like, and then he talks to himself saying, once you get here, Althor, I will be rid of you once and for all, and everything. So we're getting all this build up, and then nothing. I have an idea that I think could work. I think so. I think so. Nothing changes except for nothing changes. So everything, Rand fights and kills High Lord Turok in Falme, and they're being chased by the Seanchan. So when Rand and Ingtar are alone, Ingtar is about, Rand, I have something to tell you. Then all of a sudden, Padden Fane comes out and tries to kill Rand, but Ingtar takes the hit.
Right.
So Padden Fane tries to kill Rand in an ambush, and Ingtar steps in and takes the hit for him. But then because the Seanchan are coming, Padden Fane runs off. Padden Fane runs off. It's like, your home will suffer for this, Althor. And then he runs off.
Hey, that would have been a good idea. Yeah.
And then because Ingtar is wounded, I can't come with you. I will slow you down. And then Rand then does his, gives him his final
last embrace of the mother.
Yeah, last embrace of the mother, his final final rites and all that, and and then Ingtar's dying, kind of like Boromir in Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Like when he confesses, Ingtar would do something like that, wounded. Well, he wouldn't be down on the ground. He would be okay enough to fight off the Seanchan. So he would still get his final rites. He's like, I'm going to die. And then Rand does all of his stuff. We get that beautiful scene. And then Rand leaves him. And then Rand leaves him, and then Ingtar, perishes, tries to hold him off as long as he can while wounded. Because there's nothing more dangerous than a cornered wounded person. Well, I think. So I know a lot of people might disagree with that. But
I like that. And if you were adapting it, and if you made a change like that, that's a good change, right? Potentially, you know what I mean? Like that's the kind of thing that you would expect in an adaptation. So yeah, I like that idea, man. It does just drop him in, but it's a story. I can't say spoilers, but yeah, it's they did just drop him in, eh? They just dropped it.
Because I'll be honest, like the best part of the Great Hunt was just the buildup of Padden Fane. So Padden Fane in the Eye of the World came off as, well, I mean, first, the first time I read it, I didn't notice it, but the second time I read it, my reread when I started this whole thing, because I read The Eye of the World years ago, because I finished Song of Ice and
Yeah, I remember
Fire,
saying that. Yeah.
and I was looking for another fantasy series. I googled it, and Wheel of Time was like the first one that pops up.
Yep.
And it was I think it was 2015, 2016. So the series was already finished by that point.
Yeah.
So I read up on Robert Jordan. I read up on Brandon Sanderson because Brandon Sanderson completed it.
Yeah.
And I first heard about Robert Jordan actually from something George R. Martin wrote, because back in between books 4 and 5, he was taking his time with book 5. And people were giving him shit for this because he promised the book would be done in 2006, and it's 2009. There was still no news about it. And so he's like, and people have been saying you're going to die before you finish the books. And he's like, well, and he says he addresses everybody saying, I'm sorry, but I'm not finished. And I know I get it. You're worried I'm going to pull Robert Jordan, deny your book, but nothing I can do.
Hey, it is what it is.
But that's how I first heard Robert Jordan.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's a good gateway. Like, that's a ripping gateway from Buddy George to RJ. He was one of his mentors, right? They were good mates. They were mates.
I don't know. I don't know the extent of their relationship, but I remember getting the first Game of Thrones book, and there's like a quote from Robert Jordan saying that this is a brilliant new series to read or something.
Yeah, man.
So
I mean, they're close enough. They were good enough mates. Like, back then too. Like, how many decent fantasy stories did we have? There was fuck all, apart from like Dragonlance and whatever, and Lord of the Rings. But like modern day sort of fantasy, which RJ really did start that. The whole thing that we've got now, we've got a whole section of the bookstore now. The fantasy nuts like me and like heaps of other people. That all started with Robert Jordan. Let's be fucking clear about it, right? Like, before RJ, people just like didn't. There was just stuff over there down the back. You'd be lucky if you could find it. So I started all this shit.
So I got a question. I mean, I know you're reading Sanderson. I know you're. I think you're reading Stormlight, right? Stormlight Archives.
This one again right now.
Which one is that?
This is Way Kings.
Oh wait, okay.
Yeah. I start because one of my mates from work picked it up. I've been trying to get him to read it for ages, and he just like started texting me saying, "Oh, I picked that book up, and this question, that question." And this is the thing. I know people will disagree about this, or whatever, but I love this book. And as soon as like someone starts asking me questions about things about the Cosmere, I just cannot help but pick it up and read it again, because like it's when I answer questions about it, it just sparks this like desire to pick it up again. So I literally picked it up again. I'm reading the Dresden Files as well at the same time, which you should read because there's a bloody Chicago one. How do you say Chicago?
I bought I have the first book on my Kindle. I have the first book of a whole bunch of series on my Kindle. I have like the first Dune book. I have the first Foundation book. I have the first I think Dragonlance. I think I have the first Dragonlance book too. I have the first. Have you read any of Elric of Melniboné?
No, that's a new one for me.
Michael Moorcock. Nah. Let's just say that one came out in the 70s. It's very sexy. It's very sexy, and let's just say Witcher kind of copied some, like especially The Witcher. What's his name? Kind of copied some ideas from Elric, because Elric he's an albino, and he's a king,
right?
And he's got abilities, and I haven't read that far, but he's a Chad. He's a Chad, right. And it's a dark fantasy. And I know Gadfly has brought up. I'm kind of interested in another book series called the Covenant. What was it called? The Covenant of Tom? No. The Covenant of Thomas? No. Thomas Covenant?
I don't know that.
Okay. Yeah, that's another series I've heard about too. So.
Yeah, right. No, I haven't.
We have to. Okay, I might as well humor Nas right here. There's a movie that I watched that he recommended called Vice Squad. Came out in the 80s. Okay. He wants me to do a brief breakdown of it. So basically, you have It's one of the cheesiest 80s movies you can ever watch. The villain is a pimp, and he's like a cartoon character. Like he overpowers the police when they try to arrest him. He runs away, and he's like a big guy, 6'3", and he just bullies everybody, and he beats up prostitutes looking for this one prostitute played by Susan Hubley, who was married to Kurt Russell at one point.
Okay.
And let's just say she doesn't know he's after her, and he kills people, and there's a chase, and she captures her, and he nearly kills her. He's chasing her like it's a thriller, but then the cops come and they're idiots, but they manage to chase him, and they kill him by running him over and then shooting him. They run him over, they back into him into a wall, but yet he's still alive. He's trying to push the car off of him, and then the cop shoots him through the windshield in the car while he's trying to drive into him. It's ridiculous.
That sounds ridiculous.
Yes.
What's that called? So, what's that called? Vice Squad.
It's called Vice Squad. Came out in 1982, and it's one of the most. It's a thrill. It's a hilarious thriller. So.
Yeah, right. Well, if you're ridiculous, mate, the Dresden book that I'll list. By the way, if you do read Dresden, I highly recommend that you do it via the audiobook format, because the bloke that does the audios is the dude that played Spike from Buffy. You remember that bloke, the blonde-haired fella, Spike?
Okay, I think I know who you're talking about. I have not seen Buffy.
You haven't
but
seen
I think
Buffy?
I know what you're talking about.
You haven't watched Buffy?
Not yet.
How did
no.
you miss Sarah Michelle Gellar?
Okay, face. so I got to write this.
Face. That Marilyn Manson's girlfriend. She's the hottest thing in there ever.
Okay, so I have to watch
Buffy, mate. You have
Al
to watch
Dan
Buffy.
says to watch Buffy.
Yeah, you got to watch Buffy. It's amazing. And the dude.
What about Angel? Spike, what about Angel? Is that any good?
Well, it was all right when I was younger. It probably wouldn't be now. I'm not sure. It's got a cult following, but I mean, Buffy's. You have to watch Buffy.
I didn't know this, but they made a movie. So Buffy was a movie first, and then it was
the series.
The movie.
Whatever. Fuck the movie. The show's to go for sure.
And this, 100%. I think, and Buffy is what made, I think, Joss Whedon famous in the first place, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's a fact. In my brain, it's a fact, so it's a fact. Yeah. The dude that plays Spike in that show narrates the audiobook for Jim Butcher's Dresden Files. Yeah, and it's extraordinary. It's amazing to the degree that it's a first person narrative sort of thing, right? So you're inside Harry Dresden's head for all of these books, so it's like a first person perspective. And the narrative of Dresden is not like my normal voice. It's not Spike's James Masters' normal voice. He's got like an entire voice for Dresden, and he's got voices for all the other characters that are in it as well. So you never hear James Masters speaking at all, which
up there with Michael Kramer and.
Well, it's better. He's better. Like when I say better, as in from the perspective, he's an actor, and that's his job, right? To do this sort of thing or whatever. So he brings all of that to the performance of these audiobooks. The Kramer books Kramer's amazing audiobook narrator, but does not have the range that like someone like a James Masters has, who just managed to apply his skills from his acting skills into the narration of a book series, and it's extraordinary. So I really recommend that you do it audio, because I've listened. I'm in the book I'm reading right now, for example, right? You want to talk about ridiculous things that happen. You've got like a fucking reanimated Tyrannosaurus Rex corpse being like ridden down the streets of Chicago by a fucking wizard, springing fireballs around. It's unbelievably cool. It's the coolest shit you could ever possibly imagine. And yeah, there's a talking skull who talks like an English professor, and I love it. It's great. It's so.
I'll have to maybe I'll check that book. That's the thing. I'm not sure what I should read next. I'm not sure if I should just jump right into Fires of Heaven, or I should read the Dresden Files next.
You should split it up. It's a thing that I recommend people like regularly when they're reading Wheel of Time, because it can get a little bit onerous. Like if you just go, especially if you're not like a massive fan of slower pace sort of stuff, because that does grow on you with Wheel. So like if that's not your jam, the breaking up the Wheel of Time with the Dresden book is a great way to go because it's so fast paced and it's like completely different. You read them like that. You just read them like that. Everything happens. Like there's in a Dresden book, you've got like the plot points of about 4 Wheel of Time books inside a single book.
And the books are not too long, are they? They're like pretty compared to the tomes, like compared to this, compared to Wheel of Time.
She's beautiful. God, she's sexy. That's a great looking book. That's a great book, dude, man.
Yeah, it's funny. Speaking of Nerd Man, so you started the Nerd Man thing. Other people started calling me that too. So
I've noticed a few, mate. I've noticed a few. There's been a few, a few of my little nicknames have caught on across the fandom, which is great.
I should actually remedy that right now. Actually, should so just for you, Aldan. Capitalize the M there. There you go.
Nice, very nice. Like it.
Okay, so definitely. I didn't know. I never heard of the Dresden Files. I think I first heard about it. I was on a stream on Ryan Roger Athe. I was on with me and Pips were on with him, and Pips brought up the Dresden Files, and then Steve brought up the Dresden Files, and then everyone else started bringing up the Dresden Files. So I think it's inevitable. Maybe it's Taverin. Maybe it's Taverin that I read that I'm drawn to the Dresden Files. Then I'm in Chicago. And why does everyone hate on Chicago Deep Dish? Like seriously, like I
can't answer that. That's out of my pay grade.
I don't know, but yeah, I hung out with Alex and Lady B on the weekends, so it was a lot of fun. They're awesome to hang out in person. So
they're awesome.
Yeah, so like everyone in this like section of YouTube or something, everybody acts the way they act on stream, and they're really cool. I am glad to be associated with such people.
Yeah, that's a good thing, man. That's such a good thing, isn't it? Well, I think it's funny. I think I talked to Salty about this a long time ago, but it is so strange to sort of find kindred spirits in one thing where you find this like this like perversion and undermining of like stories and media that you love, and like you find these common threads with people across like different different things in life, different categories, or whether it's political stuff or whether it's like sporting stuff or whether it's whatever. Like there's where there's contention, it's funny that like the people that you like if you think that if you agree on this particular thing, as in like I don't like this or this is not right, that you think that this is also not right, and it's quite bizarre to find that across, I reckon, across the fandom.
I've noticed, like in my experience, I noticed that people become friends through shared misery or through shared disappointment. Yeah, so like even more so than like becoming part of like fan group that everybody likes everything because I want to be accepted and all that. So I mean, I didn't become a Star Trek fan to be accepted into a fandom. I liked Star Trek as a kid because I liked it, because I watched it, and it compelled me. It made me want to watch more of it, and I learned quite a bit from the stories. I made me more interested in history and academia and storytelling and all that. So, and that's why I'm a nerd. I mean, Star Wars actually was my true gateway into nerdiness. So I gotta ask you, I never asked you, was Wheel of Time your gateway into fantasy, or was it something or into reading fantasy, or was it something else?
Nah, man, I started my gateway into fantasy because I was sort of brought up in the church, I guess, like pretty religious sort of family, I suppose. So no, I used to hide my Motley Crue and my Guns N' Roses cassettes back then, so Dad wouldn't find them and chuck them in the fucking fire. And it was
Shit.
and it was the same. And it was the same. They're a bit good on him. Like whatever. He had his standards, and I appreciate standards. I appreciate. I understand. I understand. I hated it. Obviously, I hated it at the time because I was shit having to hide that sort of stuff. But the looking at the world today now, he had an idea of standards, and he wanted to raise his family with standards that he agreed with. And I can understand that when, like, with all the outside pressures, being a single dad myself now, and trying to protect my children from my perspective, as in the standards that I have. So it's not that. So I didn't like it, but I understand it. Um. So yeah. No, it wasn't the Wheel of Time. It was a series. It was like the first. My first. It's funny actually. 'Cause I was talking to Pips about this the other day, mate. There's the Daily Wire is making an adaptation of the Stephen Lawhead Arthurian books, Arthur, Merlin and shit, which Stephen Lawhead wrote, and that was the first sort of fantasy type, not fantasy, but fantastical, mythological series that I ever read. Was the Lawhead series of like King Arthur and Taliesin and all that sort of stuff. And it's his take on that historical Arthurian legends, and it's fucking good stuff. Like I'm gonna reread it before they drop it because I watched some. Yeah, I watched some of the pre-production stuff that the Daily which just blows my mind, but it looks really good. They've got that Brett Cooper YouTuber chick. She's playing a really cool character, right? In that particular series, and a whole bunch of other stuff. Everything looks perfect on the pre-production stuff from the way that I remember it as a kid. That was my gateway, and so from there I knew that I had like an interest in fantastical sort of elements of mythology and the ethereal sort of like isn't it real sort of thing, like the escapism world. And from there I read most of the Dragonlance stuff. I've got most of the Dragonlance stuff in my library still today. Brisbane, Alex. So yeah, and Dragonlance into Eddings. I read Eddings, who was turned out to be a bit of a piece of shit as a person, but
Oh
I can
shit.
separate. That's okay. I can separate art from fiction, and I mean art from reality. Same reason I can dance to Thriller is the same reason I can still read Eddings. So yeah, Eddings, and I loved David Eddings' stories. He's got like a couple of really big series. They're really easy to read, and they're funny, but they're really long. And so like that's when I sort of went from sort of just like normal books, normal fantastical books to like, oh, this is a really big, massive story that's going to take a long time to read. That's where I sort of transitioned to that, and from there. Then I went to the Wheel of Time when, as you said earlier, when I stole that book from the library, which was still a challenge. I love that. That was cool. Fuck that stupid librarian. What a dick. What a bitch.
I
He was such a cunt of everything, I tell you.
Yeah, I can't blame you. I remember being in the public school system myself. Like teachers and especially people that worked in the office, pieces of shit. Like they were mean to the students,
Oh,
even when the students weren't. Like I was a good student. Like I wasn't. I wasn't like I was a low maintenance student, and yet they still treated you like you were a bad student. Like fuck off.
yeah, man.
Seriously.
It was, well, yeah. I mean, just I had some great teachers too. Like it goes, there's both sides of the coin. Like I didn't even, like for example, like I was just like at school to hang around, like for sport really, because I was a gun athlete when I was younger, and so I went to school just so I could compete at national titles for athletics, right, for schoolboys and that sort of stuff. That's the only reason I went when I was younger. Until year 9, I had this fantastic English teacher who all of a sudden, because I had such a good teacher, then I discovered that I had like a way with words and that I could write, and that was the thing that I really enjoyed, a way that I enjoyed to express myself, right? And out of that, because I also was a musician, I still am, but like
I was listening. I
and
was
so
listening to you earlier today.
hey,
Yeah, I was listening to You're Proud to Be a Book Cloak
Oh yeah.
cover
Yeah,
of Gloria Gaynor's I Will Survive. I don't know. I subscribed to you. I
oh,
subscribed to you and I left you a comment. I was like, swoon,
amazing.
like that.
Nice one. But yeah, I love music, man. So yeah, so when you put those two things together, right? And because I had this great English teacher who helped me to discover that I was good at writing and that could put together sentences and that sort of stuff. And then you combine that with the musical, just natural talent that I sort of had at the same time. All of a sudden, you can write songs, and it's what a gift, right? What a gift. So it's not all bad. So there were some good teachers and some good stuff as well. But the library bitch was no good. No good. In fact, it's funny because in year 12, in year 12 in Australia, they banned this shit now because Australia fucking sucks. But back then, we had this thing called muck up day. I don't know what you guys do in the States, but when you finish high school, that's year 12 for us is finishing high school. When after that, you go to uni and destroy your mind. But here we have last sort of week you have where the year 12s, they've done your exams, you get a week to just act up and fuck around. We don't anymore, but
We
we
did
used
something. We did something like that too.
yeah, right. So, and mock up day, we get dressed up. We got dressed up as the dudes from Scream, with the Scream masks and all the outfits. So
Yeah.
couldn't tell nothing. And my mate was like a farmer, or his parents were farmers or whatnot. And we had these piles of cow shit that he brought into school in the back of the ute. And then we secretly just went out at recess, got these sacks of cow shit, and took them in and ran them through the library and dumped them all over this bitch's desk and stuff. The library chick, because she was such a pain in the ass, and we hated her that much. We hated her that much that our choice for muck up day was dumping cow shit on the librarian's desk. And I still feel bad about it a little bit because I love books, right? And I love books, but she deserved it.
So you say cow shit basically?
Cow shit, yeah, bags of cow shit. We ran
Oh
it through the library,
shit.
dressed up in their scream mask, screaming out, and then we fucking ran. And we had another mate who lived across the road behind a bottle just a couple of blocks outside the school. So we ran out of the library, and there's another teacher in the school there who was a Japanese teacher who decided he was going to catch us and figure out who it was, and was chasing us out. We ran out of the library, jumped the fence, ran down the road, and this bloke's chasing after us, trying to catch us. We were jumping fences, and shit. It was great. It was absolutely fantastic. But yeah, they don't let us do that anymore.
That sounds like a blast.
Yeah, dude, the '90s Australia was fun back then. It really was. It was a great place. But yeah,
I gotta ask you. I gotta ask you. It's gonna be a one that you're not gonna want to answer. But I have to ask you, what was the most egregious thing that you saw from the Wheel of Time series?
The most egregious.
Yeah, I know. I know. There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot. The most. It's land. It has to be land. It has to be land. It has to be land.
Oh, because he's twisting his.
Land's nipple twisting will go down in history as the most disgusting character assassination in the history of media. It is. I really don't care what anyone says, and I know that they spin it. I've heard Daniel Henney speak about this, and he's and the spin is almost as offensive as the act, to be honest, because that's what these fucking these pretend men. This is what they do. They spin it. They say, "Oh, but because Lan is all about duty. So, if Lan was in a position where he had to do this, then he would commit to it with 100%, and he would rip his shirt off, the most ripping off that anyone's ever ripped off a fucking shirt, and he would be the most emotional if he was charged with being the emotional flag bearer for this ceremony for his friend. He would do his duty, and he would be the most emotional person ever. And that's the okay, not verbatim, but like that's the crux of what Daniel Henney said in this interview. And I fucking just about threw the laptop out the window. It's like you don't understand the character at all. And it's not just that you don't understand it, but you looked at the character, and instead of standing up because that demonstrates like an awareness. That demonstrates an awareness to try and spin like a key element of a character's core. It's not your character. It's a character that someone that's far more talented and way better than you, has a better creative person than you, has created and put. And to try and spin this moment into something else demonstrates an awareness of the thing that you're doing in the first place. Like you're saying, I know what I'm doing is wrong, and I have to justify it somehow, so I'm going to put like a spin on it. And that enraged me, and it still enrages me. I don't know if you can tell, but it still enrages me to this day. Like I fucking hate it, and that is the most egregious. And then
What about the part where he's peeing on the tree?
well, that's just retarded, right? Like that's not egregious. Sure, by that stage, who gives a fuck, right? Well, he's already twisted his nipples off. He's already fucking bawled his eyes out.
Yeah,
So, like it doesn't. Who cares? Piss on a
it
thousand trees.
was just like further humiliation of the character. I mean, everything. Like I'm reading this book, and he's in it, and he's there, but he's not there. Like he is stone faced. He is cool.
Stoic.
And he's stoic, and he'll make a joke every once in a while. Hey, look, because when Rand was all cut up, he's like, "Oh, I guess you needed help shaving. You didn't know how to shave properly."
Yeah,
And then
mirrors
Rourke's like,
stuff.
"Yeah, that's funny," you know. They're like, "Yeah." So that was a great moment. And then he like, does Daniel Henney call Rand sheep herder or give him nicknames, because that's kind of what military. It's what they do in the military, right? I mean, Robert Jordan was in the military, was in Vietnam, and they all call each other by nicknames, So I mean, you're in the military, you get a nickname. Pips has a nickname. He's Whiskey. What he does. So I mean, with Land calling Rand sheep herder and calling Piran blacksmith. What's funny is I liked how in Dragon Reborn Piran kind of is like, no, I'm not blacksmith, I am Piran. One time where he got pissed off about that. So but
yeah,
can't wait to see where that goes.
I can wait. I can wait forever. I would prefer to wait forever to see where that goes. Oh, you mean in the book?
On the book, not on the show. Not on the show. The show as far as I know, the show's dead to me. Ever since I watched the first episode of season 1, where everybody was, I was reacting to it, I was like, this is terrible. And what's funny is the first couple episodes were the best episodes, because they had the most in common with the Eye of the World.
Yeah, I know. After episode 3, it went to shit. It hasn't gone back since then. It got worse. I'll still say this. Like even season 2, I know the episode 8 was the most offensive thing that they've done so far, as far as I'm concerned. I found that the most offensive on all fronts, and I thought it was misandrous, male-hating bullshit. Where they were from season 1, it was like, and most of season 2, it was like, this is just like man-hating trash.
Because they took away Rand's victory, and they gave it to the girls.
Yeah, but it's not just that, because it's not just men, because they also fucked up men and turned into a dark friend, and they've just like destroyed Nynaeve's motivations. The best thing, honestly, I'm not going to spoil anything. What can I say? What I can say is that as a young man reading The Wheel of Time and reading this like fantastical story with like these like amazing characters that are like really flawed and really broken, and having one of them being a fucking female She-Hulk, was the magic She-Hulk, was the coolest shit. It was just the best, and I love Nynaeve. I love her, and she's not there, and she kind of was there, and then that's like, I don't know what happened, but like in season 2, they've just like they've cured her block because the healer bitch taught her how to she used the power. So her block was gone, but now it's not gone. She doesn't get angry. She doesn't have to get angry to channel because she's been in 1,000 situations that would have made her fucking angry enough to channel, and she's not channeling. So that's not her block. So her block is like she's got a fucking period, and then she can't, and then she can. I don't know. I don't understand it. So there's no fucking Nynaeve. They've destroyed men, so it's not just a man thing. It's a their shit thing. It's not just men. They're just shit. They like Egwene. So we've got like a pretty good adaptation of Egwene being a cunt. That's great.
When she was captured by the Shanshan, I was when I read The Great Hunt, I felt for Egwene. She was being tortured by Rhaena. Rhaena was a sadistic bitch. So when Egwene, finally gets rescued, she goes and she punches the shit out of Rhaena. I was like, yeah, punch that bitch. And I was happy. In the show, I was Team Rhaena, even though Rhaena was one of the worst actresses. I mean, she was terrible delivery, terrible actress. But I was Team Rhaena. I mean, Rhaena came across as more friendly than Egwene. Egwene was like, oh, I was just like, torture her. What are you doing? Yeah. And then how she gets free didn't make any sense. So she collars her, and then they can collar each other. It was
that doesn't. They broke their own rules. They broke RJ's rules, and they broke their own rules. There's no way that Egwene could pick up the fucking Adar without having the intent to put it on Rhaena. And she knows what the Adar does because she's got one around her own fucking neck right now.
If she tried to do that, she'd feel pain right away. Just thinking of the initial idea.
And if they hadn't, that's what one of the things that they did well. Actually, they actually displayed that well in episode 5, whatever it was of season 2. They actually showed that. They spent a whole episode on it, and that's a creative choice that they made. And I know people don't like it. I thought it was fine, actually. I liked that, and they did that well. Like you knew after episode 5 that Egwene can't even think about hurting this person. She can't even touch a thing that she thinks that she could hurt with this person, or that she perceives that she may be able to hurt this person with. She can't even think about touching that thing without feeling pain. And then the next to them, and then the result is that we just like forget about that shit. Doesn't matter. And it's fuck the show, man. Fuck them. Fuck them.
Eldan, one thing I do appreciate about you, and one thing I have noticed, I've watched other YouTubers that have, were a little bit more positive about it. And the thing I appreciate what you do is you actually listen to the videos, you comment, and you basically say your side, and you simply say you disagree, but you're trying to form a conversation. That's one thing that I think you've done better than anyone else here on this side of the block, I'll say. So
no, I appreciate that. I do try and do that. It's because this is
we're all. The thing is, we're all fans, and it's just some fans just want to. They just want to like it so much that they're willing to, disregard this. They're willing to disregard what Robert Jordan made. I mean, this is an initial adaptation. This is unacceptable. I mean, I could see if this was like, years down the line, kind of like, how Shakespeare has been adapted, like, I'm sure how many times has Hamlet or Macbeth been adapted, and then Japan made their own version of it. Throne of Blood's a version of Macbeth, and Ron is a version of King Lear. Years later, hundreds of years later. But if you're going to make an initial adaptation of a especially of a fantasy book series, adapt what Robert Jordan did first, and then do something.
At least tell the same story, right?
That's what people when you announce something like that. This is people want to see this. They don't want to see this alternate turning of the wheel, whatever the fuck they call it. It's not acceptable. It's a bait and switch. And I mean, it makes Game of Thrones season 8 look like Shakespeare. Because I watched Game of Thrones season 8 and I hated it when it first came out, but now I'm sorry, Dan and Dave, Dumb and Dumber, they're not dumb. They're not Dumb and Dumber anymore.
Nah, man.
Rafe is the dumbest.
You're not wrong. It's funny, isn't it? It's funny, isn't it? Like you do look back on things like Game of Thrones season 8. I have to watch that again, like in light of all this new information of like how bad media has gone. So I just got to just take a piss, mate. How
Watch out for
bad.
kangaroos, by the way. I saw a YouTube short of a kangaroo attacking a dog, someone's dog, and the guy rescued his dog by punching the kangaroo, and the kangaroo was just like, "The fuck? Did this wild Australian just punch me?" And then the comments, I was reading the comments. Everybody was making fun of the like the kangaroo didn't realize he was dealing with a wild Australian.
Some of the roos get pretty rowdy around here, mate. They're pretty cool. Where my boy plays footy, it's funny. They have like at the school has like it's about, I don't know, probably 30, 40 kangaroos that live there. Like they literally live on the ovals and stuff at the school. And so when they're training for football, they go training and they're playing footy, and there's like 30 kangaroos that just like use the ground and like jumping in between the balls and all this sort of stuff as they're like kicking the balls across the ground. It's fucking hilarious. I have to dodge the kangaroos to do football training, which is amazing. That's Australia.
Like those bastards, they box. Like they're freaking.
Some of them are pretty jacked, mate.
Oh yeah.
They go all right.
They're tall. Like I've seen them. They're like as tall as a man.
Bigger. Some of the big ones. Some of the big eastern greys. They're huge. They're big. They're monsters. And strong. They're strong because the way they work. You don't have to really watch out for their hands, but they grab you, and they rip you. The way they fight is with their legs. So they grab you, on the shoulders with your arms, and then they put these legs, which you've seen a kangaroo jump, right? They can jump, so they've got real strong forelegs, and they use those big claws, and they like rip your guts out, and that's how they try and kill you. Crazy.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Damn.
That's how they fight. Like you see two roos fighting, and they've evolved or adapted, whichever way you want to float your boat, with these like crazy like rectal sheaths of like they've got like body armor basically, and so that when they punch on, they like kick the shit out of each other. They grab each other on the shoulders and they just boot the crap out of each other and try and rip their guts out.
I hear they use their tail like to kind of balance themselves. Like they
do. Yep.
I did. I'll be honest. It was interesting watching. One thing I love about YouTube is interesting watching these things. The only time I've seen kangaroos were in cartoons. Was in like Looney Tunes or some cartoon. So like when you see actual wildlife, it was just like, oh shit, damn.
So you can see on some of that Attenborough bloke, he's got some real cool footage of kangaroos punching on, like in Australia, where they're having like crazy fights. It's cool as.
Where do they congregate? Do they congregate like in flatland places, forests, or?
No, well, like I said, at the kids' school, mate, they've got about 50 up there, just fucking hanging around in the bush on the ovals. Yeah, they just live around there.
Oh, okay.
Anywhere they want. They're a pest here.
Do they live like under trees, or do they sleep on the ground or something? Where I'm curious, like how do they?
No, they just wherever.
Okay.
Yeah, they don't have like they're not like birds. They don't build nests or whatever. They just.
So do they just you walk into them? They're kind of like homeless people. They just sleep on the ground, and you just have to walk around them or something.
Yeah, that's why it's so cool at footy training, because like the kangaroos will just be like hanging out at the fucking oval, and you're like, oh, we'll start training. The balls will be running around. They'll start kicking balls. Kangaroos will run around and get all crazy, and it's pretty cool.
Do they stay away from the people? Do they just
It depends. Like if the little ones get involved, sometimes the big ones get a bit grumpy about it. But yeah, no, they pretty much do their own thing.
Oh, okay, cool. That's good. So, okay, so we got a nice little kangaroo talk right there. So, so I got a question. So, did you say you paint figurines?
Yes, I do actually.
So what
When
do
did I
you?
tell you that?
Because we were talking about my Wheel of Time stuff, and you're like, you should like you're talking about listening to the audiobooks, like you should do this while painting figurines. I'm like I don't paint figure. I haven't painted figure. I've never painted figurines. I think I went to a painted penguin place once in the States, and that's a place
nice.
where I hung out with a girl and we were painting something. Of course, nothing. This was when I was in college. Nothing materialized from that. It was my attempt to try something, but yeah. So, but yeah, that's the only time I've really ever painted like figures or things.
Check this out. This is beast. I'll paint these things are called hero clicks, right? There's a game. This is Captain America.
Ooh, wow.
This is a game, right, that you buy or that you play. It's like a board game. It's like chess with superpowers, right? And this is my number one nerd thing, right? This is where Al Dan gets his nerd right on. Is with hero clicks, and he's Batman. But I paint them. You don't have to paint them, but I paint them because I think that they look better when they're painted. But he's Batman.
Oh shit! Look at that.
He's fucking rad. But yeah, anyway, so it's like chess.
Where's the trigger? Where's the trigger?
It's like chess with superpowers. You have a board, and you like move your characters in. They got certain abilities that they can do. They can like.
You have a magnifying glass that helps you see, the area, the small, tiny little area where you're gonna paint. Yeah, I'm sure you have a tiny little brush.
Yeah, I have a tiny little brush, but no, not required. I'll just paint them. Where are we? Here we are. Yeah, no. So that base thing, right? You click it and it changes statistics. So it's like Dungeons and Dragons, but like imagine your player card being attached to a little dial on the bottom of your character. So like whenever you take damage, it affects you spin your dial and it changes your abilities depending on your character, right? So Hulk, for example, the more he gets hit, the stronger he gets, and then he gets like some regen at the end, that sort of stuff, where he can heal himself back and all these sorts of things. It's fucking cool, and it's rad. Anyway, so yeah.
What game again? What was this called again?
This is called Hero Clicks, and I don't know if I don't know if they still do it, but I used to play this when I was in high school, and I still play it with my son now. Like Max loves it because it's Marvel and it's superheroes, so he loves it, and it's good fun. It's great fun, and yeah, you play on a board like a chessboard, just with like a little grid map. It's rad.
Yeah, Dempsey and Gadfly's like Hero Clicks is a game I have not heard in a long time.
Yeah,
long time.
It's so much fun. I love it. I still play it today. I'll play it when Max gets home later this afternoon.
Nice. So, what about you play video games at all? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I do. I just finished Mortal Kombat the other day, the new Mortal Kombat game.
Oh, how was that?
Yeah, very cool. Yeah, I finished him. All right, finished him. It's good. It's good. It's honestly story's great. Everything's good about the graphics and all that sort of stuff. They have uglified the girls. I'd be lying if I said they haven't. Compared to all the like amazing cartoon boobs that we had in the last one, they've really drummed that down. I don't really care about that. I don't really need to see.
What platform? PC, PS5.
I play on Xbox. The boys got the PS5. So yeah,
oh, okay.
I play on Xbox.
Yeah. I haven't played a whole lot of games myself, but me being a big Nintendo guy, I'm gonna resume this tomorrow. Super Mario Wonder, first 2D Mario game.
Very nice.
Original 2D Mario game in a long time. Probably since Super Mario World. Dude, not counting the new Super Mario games. Those were all basically retro nostalgia bait right there.
That looks like a very good thing to have to be doing while you've got like an audio book on in the background, mate. That's what I reckon.
Well, that's that's true. I mean, yeah, that definitely. So, so next next video game project I'm actually working on right now is back in the 90s. They made educational Mario games. There was one game where it was a geography based game. So Bowser's Castle's in Antarctica, and Mario gets captured. So you play as Luigi, and in order to progress in Bowser's Castle, you go into these portals, and these portals take you to different cities in the world. So you go to Tokyo, Japan. You go to San Francisco. You go to you go to Buenos Aires, Argentina. You go to Rome, Italy. And so you go to all these places, and you go there, and you find all these Koopa Troopas. And these Koopa Troopas stole like artifacts from like very famous landmarks in these cities or in these countries. And then you have to return the artifacts, and the person asks you a series of questions, and you have to get the questions right about the artifact, its significance, like the Koopa Troopas steal the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel, and they ask you questions about the history of the Sistine Chapel and all that. So, and you have to get them correct. So let's just say I didn't know shit when I was I think I was 9. So I had go ahead.
Okay. It sounds like that Carmen, was it? Where in the world is Carmen Sandiego? Do you remember that game when you were a kid?
Yes.
It sounds like that, but Mario.
Yeah, it pretty much is that. And you answer questions, and what's nice is if you go into different parts of the city, so you can't die. There's Koopa Troopas, and they use the same pixels as from the Super Nintendo game, at least the version I owned. But there's like NPC characters that you go and you talk to, and they give you hints about how to answer the questions correctly. And then you answer all the questions correctly, and then you get past that. So there's 3 artifacts per city that you have to complete in order to beat that particular city. And there's like 15 cities that you have to go to, and then you get to the end of the game and all that. So, but that's my next video project. I haven't been working on. I haven't been working on any video projects since the Wheel of Prime one, the satire that I did. I guess that
really cool. That was cool.
Yeah, I just it's from years of observing fans, fans that like to ban you if you disagree with them. So when it comes to comedy, I like to portray myself as the bad guy.
Sure.
And so I do the fuck around, find out type of thing. So I keep fucking around, like Larry David does that in Curb Your Enthusiasm quite a bit. The Seinfeld, they do that all the time. You fuck around enough, and then it comes back and bites you in the ass. That's basically what happened to me, or that's basically what I tried to do in the video. So I was banning everybody, and then I came up with an idea. How do they unban themselves? Well, the book cloaks have bubbles of their own bubbles of evil. Well, I don't call them bubbles of evil. I call them book cloak bubbles. And that's how everybody got unbanned, and everyone's saying "F you, nerd, you dipshit," and all that. So,
do you find it? I found it amazing. The whole concept of like a book cloak, right? Like this still blows my mind that you could that's a thing, that the like fandom of like a book series, right, that we'd all been involved in for fucking 30 years as like hardcore fans for a long time. Like I literally used to like argue with people over like Yahoo chat and fucking ICQ and stuff, like messenger services when I was a young man about this stuff. So for that long that we've been and then they make a TV show about something finally, and when you say, hey, it's not like the books, fucking can we stop it? Then the people that you've like been friends with for like 30 years, that you've been arguing about different opinions about law and metaphysical things, about how the world works, how all the things connect, and they start calling you a book cloak like it's a slur. And it's like,
so did book cloak come from the white cloaks, or was that used before the white cloaks?
No, that's what the show Sworn started calling people who said this is like not the same story. How about we all like say this is bullshit? They're like, nah, it's great because lesbians. Like, nah, fuck off.
I was always wondered why. I was always wondered where the origin of the term book cloak came from. I thought it came from the white cloaks, and then that's just because the white cloaks like the book. So book cloak was first before any of that.
No, that was my experience of it. As the way that I remember it, maybe it's wrong, but the way that I remember it is that it came out of the Twitterati that like we wanted to label people that didn't like the show, that were like people like us that were just wanted it to be the same story as what was in the books.
Yeah.
So they're like, nah, book cloak. Because they hate white cloaks. They don't understand the white cloaks, by the way, just quietly.
Yeah.
But yeah. And so that was like the worst slur they could think of was book cloaks. Like because white cloaks. So we'll just add a book to it. Which still blows my mind, man. Like I'm happy to be called a book cloak. I'm proud to be called a book cloak. I will always be proud to be called a book cloak. And I'll fucking put that on my gravestone at this point. Fucking book cloaks for life. Fuck you.
Book cloak for life.
100%, mate. It's retarded. What else would you want to be? How would you want to be? Honestly, if you're like a genuine fan, if you've been reading something for 30 years and you've reread it 100 times and you love it so much that you're like super duper excited when someone decides to spend $100 million on it and make a fucking TV show about it. And you're like super, super excited about this. And then like it comes out and it's shit. And it's your thing. And it's not the thing. It's your thing. And it's like not the thing that you love.
Yeah.
How could you be? A book like is a great term. That's a great category. I'm happy to be part of that category.
Same here. And I'm still reading myself. So, but like I said, I mean, part of the reason why I watched season 2 with you guys, even though I hated season 1, was just it was my way of presenting solidarity with you guys and all that. So, and it's kind of part of the reason why I'm reading Wheel of Time is because I've really enjoyed doing stuff with Steve. I really enjoyed doing stuff with everyone else, and I wanted to keep doing stuff. So I figure if everybody was very passionate about Wheel of Time, of kind of the conversations with people, with with the boys, with Pips and Alex and Nathan and Steve, and that's kind of why I've been doing the book club stuff with them and everything. And yeah, and it's been the highlight. It's been one of the highlight streams I've done. It's given me a chance to be very creative with how I present stuff. So I wanted to try and make. I always wanted to try and make a Star Trek like previously, or a TV show like a previously on, and I do that for every episode. I show like the funniest parts of the last episode and everything, and then I'll do some funny cold open, and then I'll have an intro where I'll play this. Well, I don't know, the Stone Stance thing. I thought was probably one of my best. Most epic moments of an intro. So because we're not, they're not going to do that. They're not going to do that in the show at all.
No, they're not.
So
you're right, they're not. Like I said, man, it's not the same story. They made their own fucking story up.
I managed to find like some Final Fantasy tracks that I think mesh well with especially what I was thinking when I was reading those books and all that. So what's funny is we have a few people have recommended some stuff for the IEO Waste, so I might use that for the next book club next book club stream. So we'll see how that goes. So but yeah, what's up, Mark Clark, by the way? It still blows my mind that there are people who haven't already read the Wheel of Time. Yeah, I know.
It doesn't blow my mind. It's not an easy thing to read. I know that it's easy to. It's sort of like easy. I think that like once you've read it, to like think that it's really easy to read and that like everybody should read it. But it's not for everyone, and it's not an easy thing to get through. I don't reckon at times. So I understand.
So I got to ask you. We didn't really touch upon Sanderson. Now you've been reading. So what about Sanderson's writing do you like the most, like compared to Robert Jordan? Now you brought up earlier. I'm curious. Yep. Elaborate. I was listening. I was actually listening to. I was on your channel, and you had a link about writing, and it was all of Sanderson's lectures. I think it was at Brigham Young or something, talking about his
Yeah.
writing and all that. I was listening
Yep.
to some of that earlier today.
Yeah, it's really good. He's the stuff that he's put up on the internet, mate, for like the structure of how he does his work is, well, it's gold. If you write, it's gold. It really is. Um, what do I like about his writing? What I like about Sanderson's writing is, and again, it's subjective. I think that everything when it comes to literary works is a subjective opinion. Some people don't think that. They think that their opinion is the correct one, and that's fine. But it is always subjective when it comes to personal preference. And the way that Sanderson writes his characters and the way that he builds his characters is the thing that I love the most about it. And it's not who the characters are, it's what they do. It's the way that he writes sequences of events that lead up to moments for his characters that just it hits me in a way that no one that don't hit for anyone else to this day, right? And that's true. And it's funny because I've been reading Red Rising. I'm up to the third book in the Red Rising saga, which is a Pierce Brown series, which is a sci-fi thing, which I don't usually like sci-fi, but Red Rising is amazing. You should read that if you've got some time as well.
And
And
is
like,
that Sanderson too?
no, that's a different that's another bloke, Pierce Brown. It's
Red
ama-
Rising.
Yeah, it's like he's written a movie and put it on a page, and it's a similar thing to Sanderson. It's like, so do you remember when Marvel was good, Nerdman? Like when the Marvel movies were good, when they were structured on the screen, where where you character like you Captain like the first Captain America movie, for example, right, where you could follow the progression of his development and his emotional development throughout it to a
Yeah.
point where like there's a thing that happens that just grabs you and you go, that's who this person is, and I know how he got here, and I love all the steps in between here, and that's people and people can look past this because they I think that they want to read something different when they read a Sanderson novel. Maybe they want to read a different way that of the events playing out, or a different narrative, or a different structure to the prose and that sort of stuff. But for me, it is about what landed this character, which at this moment here, which I love, and like what are the progression, what are the steps that come up to it, and that's the way that he writes his books, and it is similar to, like I said, to a Red Rising type thing, where it feels like it's a movie on the page, and when you hit those moments, it is like the Avengers Endgame moment when everyone comes out through the gateways, which
Yeah.
is going to ruin the Wheel of Time show, and these things happen and they hit you, and that's the way that he writes his books for his characters, and that's what I love about his writing. It's not his prose. His prose is shit. And to be honest, when I read Sanderson novels, a lot of the time, like he uses the character names too much. Like with his characters, he's like, Calvin did this, Calvin did that, Calvin did this, Calvin did that. And I find myself like auto correcting that in my mind as I go. So I don't necessarily notice the things I think that probably people get annoyed about. Like I'll change those to he did this and he did that. If it's like if he's using character names too much and that sort of thing. Like I'll literally like automatically do that, and I won't even realize it's happening until I go back and go, oh shit, it didn't say he, it said Shalan or whatever. So yeah, that's what I love most about his work, mate. It's because when the moments happen in these books, when they happen, and when you've read them, when you follow the character through his progression up to that point to get there, and when the moment happens, it I don't. It brings tears to your eyes, like literally, like and it's not because it's like a really emotional moment. It's not necessarily because it's like this is like a really sad thing. It's for me. So as a person who's like what would you call like a has like a hero complex almost. Like my friends would tell you if you ask them, I'm sure that they would say that you know Karma's got a hero complex, right? Because I do. Like if there's something that's going wrong, I'll have to step in. It doesn't matter what it is, right? It just does not matter, and that's proven out over 40 fucking years. So that's a legit thing. So I have a hero complex, And so, like, that's what he does really, really well. He does these moments where it's that he lands and he builds them over thousands of pages, and he builds them over like a progression of like mental, like a journey for the person, like a journey of self discovery for the person that lands in decision making process for a character that you're invested in, that I'm invested in, because I understand the battle that that character is going through. And so, if you're looking for like a beautifully written essay, if you're looking for like the most oratory, whatever, like if you're looking for a linguistic masterpiece, that's not a Brandon Sanderson novel. If you're looking for a human connection to like a moment that's like a Rocky moment where you have to stand up or not, like that's a Brandon Sanderson novel. And that's what I love about it. That's what makes his writing fucking up here because no one else does it as well as no one else does that. That's no one else does that as well as Brandon Sanderson, in my opinion. Like the moment where it's where you got to make the choice, where it's you're either going to climb the steps or you're not, where you either can or you can't, where you're telling yourself that you can't but you do anyway. Like nobody writes that as well as Brandon Sanderson, in my opinion. And not like I said, maybe Pierce Brown's coming close to that with his Red Rising sci-fi stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, but that's what he does well, and he does it so well. But if you don't like that, you're not going to like him. If you read books for different reasons, then then you're not going to like that because he's an efficient writer.
I'm a sucker for a good moment. I'm a sucker for a good a good moment, like a great moment, a moment that feels earned.
Well,
That's
that's what
me.
you get. Yeah, that's what you get. That's what you get with That's what you get with Sanderson. In my opinion, in my opinion.
Okay. I did not. I have not. I've listened to a little bit of Sanderson when I went on my road trip when I met Steve and Pips and when I went to the East Coast. I was actually listening to. I actually got the audiobook for the first Way of Kings books, Way of Kings novel. I listened to that. It wasn't the prologue. It was like the introduction to the Stormlight archives and all that. So I was listening down like, what the hell am I listening to? What is this? What's going on here? I was just like, I have no idea. I had no idea. So it's
Yeah.
so I got a question. Does the different so would you read like one Cosmere series at a time? Like, would you read the Storm like archives as a whole first, and then go to like
Yeah.
Mistborn or Elantris or?
Yeah. There's no. It's a good question. There's no correct answer. Is the answer. I'll tell you how I started, and I read Stormlight. The Stormlight was the first thing that I read of Brandon Sanderson. Right. So after Wheel of Time, I thought he did such a good job, and I know people disagree with this. That's fine, but like I thought that the job that he did with the to finish out the Wheel of Time was better than anything I could have expected anyone else to ever do ever, because RJ was dead. I never expected it to get finished. And then it's a funny story. Like I was in the Philippines. Like I was in the Philippines for work, and like I was going through the airport on the way back. Just kids just been born or whatever, and I'm overseas, like on work or whatever. I've been working flat stick. I'm like tired out of my brain. I'm like trying to get home, trudging through the airport, and I walk past the airport, one of those airport newsstands or whatever, and the Gathering Storm, like the Wheel of Time book is just there. And this is like 10 years after whatever RJ's done. Like I never expected to see it finished. I didn't know. Like I checked out of the fandom years ago. I didn't know that it was going to be finished. I didn't know that Brandon Sanderson was going to finish it. Brandon Sanderson was going to finish it. I didn't know any of that stuff. I just walked past the book stand in the airport in Manila and saw a fucking book there, Brandon Sanderson and Robert Jordan. I was like, what? What is this? And picked
How'd
it
you
up.
feel? Oh, dude, how did that feel?
I cried, right? Yeah, and I bought it, obviously, and I picked it up and I just read it on the plane all the way back, I didn't stop until I finished. And
Because I think the book came out a couple. I think the book, Memory, or sorry, Gathering Storm, I think came out a couple years after he died. So 4 years after Book 11, I think came out. So damn.
it was long. I think it was longer than that because I think it was longer than that. It was long enough. like I said, it was long enough that I'd accepted the fact that it was never going to get finished, that it was also my favorite thing in the world at that time, and that, and that it was just never going to get that. That's what it was. That it was going to finish how it was, and then it was an amazing moment, and I went straight from finishing the Wheel of Time, Brandon Sanderson's entries in the Wheel of Time, and after I finished it, I was like, I can't believe the job that this man did, considering that I didn't think it was going to get finished, and not only that it wasn't going to, but that I didn't feel like anyone could finish it, right? I didn't think that was possible, and I'm not sure what other fans sort of think, whether they thought about this before it happened, but like before it happened, I thought about it and I was like, no one could do this. It's not possible. How could you finish it? Like where it finishes in Knife of Dreams, all the things that have to happen at that point. And people may disagree. Maybe they thought about it and maybe they mapped it out. Maybe they're smarter than me. Maybe they thought that they could see a way forward to how to do it. But I thought about it and I couldn't see a way that you could do it unless you were Robert Jordan and you knew what the master plan was. So I thought, well, that's it, and I'd accepted it. And so I went after that. I was so impressed by the fact, and no, it's not perfect, but is it good? It's fucking amazing. And I was so impressed by the fact that it got done and that it got done in a respectful way, right? And that felt like a cohesive story. That was remarkable to me. And so I was like, okay, well, this guy's got some skill. What else has he done? And I went straight from that to the Stormlight Archive. And that's probably not the best way to read Sanderson's Cosmere, but it is also at the same time it's his best series, right? I think it's his best series.
I know they're coming out. I think they're coming out with book 5 pretty soon.
The Stormlight's going to be 10 books, and he's like a front 5 and a back 5. It's going to be like a front 5, and then like a time gap, and then a back 5 story. So it's going to be like
part 2. So like a part 2. So part 1 would be the first 5, and then part 2 would be okay.
Yeah, that's what he's going to do. So this is going to be like a conclusion, but not the ultimate conclusion. I can tell you this: no one sticks a landing like Brandon Sanderson sticks a landing in fantasy series. Like no one, and I've read most of it. I've read a lot of fantasy stuff. No one sticks a landing like Sando does. So I'm excited for that. I'm very excited for this book. For the next one in Stormlight, I'm super excited for it, mate. Like it's. I think it's going to be really good. I really do. I think it's going to be amazing.
I'm feeling that excitement right now with you. But really quickly, Admiral Teague for $2 full. Thank you, Admiral Teague. Definitely check out his Saving Star Trek streams that he does every week. And, he has covered Picard Season 3. And let's just say he feels similar to how I feel about that show. And he's a big Star Trek fan. So, of course, he has the captain. He has the Commodore Decker as his avatar. So definitely check him out if not. And even if you disagree with him, I think he's a good guy. So definitely check him out. So thank you for $2. Get a Romulan ale on me and stay Chillporeal. Stay Chillporeal. Thank you. So.
What is a Romulan ale? Is that a thing?
Romulan ale is illegal. Romulan ale is this blue drink in Star Trek that is illegal. And every time it's because of an embargo, because the Romulans are like they're this isolationist empire that they're separated by like a neutral zone and all that. So in the original series they were creatures of duty, they were creatures of honor, and of course they had pointed ears like the Vulcans. They're related to the Vulcans. In the Next Generation, they were more sneaky and manipulative, and they would try to wedge. They would try to destroy the alliance between the Federation and the Klingons, and that was so. They were more of the villains in the Next Generation. So, but the Romulan ale is just this blue drink that is illegal. It was first seen in the Wrath of Khan. And it's used for medicinal purposes, and then in Star Trek 6 with the Klingons, because the Klingons have their own version of a Chernobyl event where their moon which their moon around their home planet gets destroyed, almost completely destroyed by a nuclear type of accident. Well, not nuclear, probably antimatter related.
Right.
And let's just say they sue for peace because of that. So it was basically an allegory of what the Soviet Union was going through. So and everything. So there was basically the wall was coming down in outer space in Star Trek 6, and so they bring the Klingons. They bring the Klingons aboard the Enterprise, and they're drinking with them. They're drinking the Romulan ale, and the Klingon Chancellor looks just like Abe Lincoln. Like he looks just like Abe Lincoln, played by the late David Warner. Let's just say because he looks like Abe Lincoln, I'm sure you can guess what happens to him.
Yeah, I can imagine.
yeah. So but that's basically Romulan ale. So, I tried to make my own version of it. It's basically a jungle juice. I have some blue Hawaiian punch, and I mix a whole lot of liquor and liquor into it, so it'll get you wasted really quickly. So that was wild.
Very nice.
So.
We like that.
Oh, but yeah. So one thing that Steve did, going back to Cosmere, one thing that Steve told me is that kind of like with Wheel of Time, how Wheel of Time builds up to Tarman Gaiden, the last battle for good versus evil, the dragon versus the shadow. I hear it's the entire Cosmere is building up to an equivalent type of final battle, but bringing everybody together.
Wow. I mean, we don't even know that. We don't even know that. We don't even know that. The thing about the Cosmere, and Steve loves it as much as I do, and I love it because it's like all these different stories on different fucking planets that are connected somehow, and they're always sometimes they're like a little bit connected, but there's people that can like jump between different star systems, right? The different planetary systems in the Cosmere. So imagine like our universe, the Cosmere is like our universe. So there's different star systems that have their own different suns with their own different moons, and there's different constellations. And on those constellations, stories happen. And over here, 100 billion light years away, you got a whole another system where there's a whole another set of stories that have taken place. Blah blah blah. And so you've got like your series of your book that you're reading is on this system here. And then there's another series over here. It's 100 billion light years away over here. And that's a story in and of itself. And then you've got a connecting plot that like connects all of the systems in an overarching plot that you don't even know really what it is yet. You just know that something happened that set off a chain of events a very long time ago. And then you've got all these other little stories in between here. And then something's going to happen down the track. Or what you could call it Time and Garden if you want, like a similar thing. We don't know that, though. We don't know what that's going to look like or anything. But something will happen in the overarching plot because it has to lead to somewhere in the Cosmere. But, yeah, I don't think you could say, I'll disagree with Steve if he says that.
Or maybe at least I thought he said something like that, or maybe that's just how I interpreted what he was saying. Maybe it's on me. Maybe it's my poor interpretation. I was thinking Wheel of Time.
Yeah, it's a reasonable parallel to draw. That's for sure. Because Brando obviously loves the Wheel of Time, and obviously he's like very heavily influenced by the themes and the structure that RJ sort of that he pioneered really. So it probably is going to end up in that sort of a way. I don't know, man.
I do have another question. Because Cosmere takes place in its own universe. Is there any science fiction elements? I know it's fantasy, but is there any science fiction elements? Like, is there any space travel or anything like that?
Raffo.
Read and find out.
You should. Well, you should read it. I think you'd probably enjoy the writing a little bit more, if I'm being honest. At this stage, So if you're a mega fan of the Cosme, if you're like a super fan or whatever, then you know that is the thing that is on the cards. You know that's a way that Brandon is probably going to head. All of his magic systems are a bit different. They're very hard magic systems. Like they have rules. They're science based. Like they're based on rules that we understand in our reality. And so there's like an extrapolation that you can make as to like where something's likely to end up. There's progress. There's technological progress through the magic systems that he has. So if you sort of like extrapolate that out far enough, then there's all kinds of possibilities. There's all kinds of possibilities.
Okay. I was looking at like his I was looking at Sanderson's magic system. So I forget, like he says, I forget what his rules are. Like he's like, make it. It's like if you're going to do it, make it cool. And I think what did he say is like if you're gonna. I was listening to his lecture. One thing that I did. Yeah, one thing that I did take away was that he's like, if you're gonna, he's like, before you add anything to the magic system, because he was telling other people how to write magic systems, that you need to basically how would I say it, like expand upon the current magic system before adding to it. That was his recommendation. So I'm curious.
Yeah,
I'm assuming that's what he does.
It is what he does. Yes, it is what he does. He's got like it's very structured, and this comes in. It plays out like if you've watched his lectures and you understand how he writes, and so like you really do, because he's very structured. There's a reason he can pump out as many books as he does in such a short period of time, right? Like there's a reason. The reason is he has a structure that he sticks to and he works hard, right?
Yeah,
and he doesn't deviate from his formula. So he's found a formula that works for him and his fan base, and he sticks to it and he doesn't deviate from it. So yeah. Not everybody likes that when it comes to magic systems, right? Not it does lose, like I'll be lying if I said that it doesn't it does lose like an element of the wonder of like a fantastical story, right? Like there's a part about Gandalf, as in like Gandalf is just Gandalf and he can do shit because he's Gandalf, and it doesn't need an explanation because Gandalf is fucking awesome and he's just Gandalf. You lose a part of that with the Brandon Sanderson structure. That's a fact, right? So you sacrifice that, but what you gain on the other hand is like more of an understanding of the process that gets up to the process that you get more of you follow the journey of the process that leads you up to the moment that makes you connect with it emotionally, I think. Whereas with a Gandalf type situation, a soft magic system, it just happens and it's amazing because it's described in an amazing way. But it's not amazing because you understand how it happened. So you can't connect with it on the same level. In my opinion, there's different types of people.
So I'm looking at the laws here. So yeah, the first law, I like how it's like thermodynamics right here. First law. So its first law says an author's ability to solve conflict with magic is directly proportional to how well the reader understands said magic. So I'm guessing what he's basically saying here is the reader's understanding of magic goes up, the author's ability to solve conflict with magic goes up too, or something.
Yeah.
So
yeah, and that's where he excels. Like he excels at that. Like putting that on the page, like taking you on that journey with like your understanding of how the magic works connects you to what's happening on the page, as in like what's the solution likely to be, or is that a solution that I can understand that I would try if I had these rules in place, which is really cool. That's a cool thing to read. That's a cool journey to go on as a reader.
Honestly, I've only read a handful of fantasies. I read Lord of the Rings, I've read Song of Ice and Fire. Those don't have magic systems. Wheel of Time is the first time that I've read something that has a magic system, and I believe this is not even really a magic system. This is a very loose.
Well, it's a combination of two, really. It's a soft magic, as in you don't really understand, but it has rules. So
Yeah.
it does have rules that are defined and that have structure. So it's kind of like it's a medium. It's sort of like a medium rare, which is the best type of steak.
So the second law is interesting. Second law is limitations are greater than powers, or if you want to write it in a clever electrical notation, you can say that resistance is greater than current. Yeah, because I've studied electrical engineering, though that would probably drive a scientist crazy. Resistance is greater than current. So yeah, so limitations greater than powers. Yeah, because limitations is what makes it's with the main character has limitations. It makes it more interesting, especially when they have to. You're like curious, how are they going to overcome the bad guy? How's Luke Skywalker going to overcome Darth Vader? And stuff like that, or all the anime shows that I've watched, like you have these overpowered bad guys, like how's Goku going to defeat Perfect Cell and all that. It gets interesting. It's part of the fun. It's part of the journey. It's part of it's finding out. It's watching it and having a good time and rooting for the character. It makes you more invested and it makes you root for the character. It makes you want the character to win.
Look, Rand is a good example of that, right? In the wheel, like Rand's flaws are the things that make him one of the best characters that's ever been like invented in history. It's because he's the most OP person in the world ever, in any fantasy series ever.
Yeah.
Rand al'Thor is the most OP ever. There's no one that comes even close to like the overpoweredness of Rand al'Thor. But you mitigate that with the fact that he's going to go insane by using it, and that it's tainted. And if he does, he can't control. He can't even control. Oh, I'm just saying, where are you up? So yeah, so he has trouble using the power, right? There's a risk for him that, like, by embracing this power, that he's going to go a little bit crazy, and that it's tainted by the Dark One. So that Rand is the best example of that. And Brandon, that's a part that Brandon tries to bring. He's tried to really, like, with all of his like series in the Cosmic, he's really tried to like bring that element of like a restriction or like a flaw on the thing that drives your story ultimately. He's really tried to bring that to as much of the forefront as he can, as in like that's like a key thing for him. Like, you can't just be fucking Mary Sue, like super bitch, which is why the show is so stupid, by the way, because they just done away with that. If it's got a pussy, it can do that, whatever. So they've just fucked that up. But but Brandon has like really he's really tried really hard, because he obviously identifies that is what is interesting, as you said, right? That's what you find interesting. Is like, oh, I can do this, but I can't because and that creates conflict and that creates interest in the story.
Yeah.
He's the master of that. He's become the master of that. It's really good.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely have to keep that in mind. I'll have to figure out when to read it. I mean, once again, Wheel of Time is 14 books, and like you said, I'm probably not going to read them all, back to back to back. So
you got to have a break. You need to have a break. And
so
honestly,
I think
Dresden is a good break.
Dresden.
Yes.
Yeah. Chicago. I have to. Not now that
you
I have to now.
You could, and because you could get yourself a Duster, you could get yourself a 44. You could be Harry Dresden, man. You could walk around those streets doing the Nerdman walks with the whatever, with the Steve, with the Nerdman on the fly, on the walk around the block. You could do some you could pull some Harry Dresden vibes easy.
Chillporeal on the street, and that's what I do. I walk around. I walk Chicago. I walk the streets of Chicago, the mean streets of Chicago. So there you go. So. Oh yeah, we're almost at 2 hours now. But yeah, this was a great conversation, Alden. This was an epic conversation. I really enjoyed this. I hope you enjoyed this too.
Loved it, mate. No worries. It's awesome. Loved it.
So is there anything? I know you don't. Is there anything you want to plug? Are you gonna make another song? Are you gonna make another song for Wheel of Prime? You have Proud to Be a Book Cloak. You have Gird Thy Loins. Is there going to be a third song? Is there going to be an album?
There's probably not going to be. There's probably not going to be an album. There is another. There is another song that I did start, but I never finished because I just got to. I just like I can't be fucked. I don't care about this anymore. But yeah. No, there's nothing I want to plug, mate. I don't. I just. Yeah, it's good to be involved in the fandom. Love all of yous, and that's it.
So you say you guys are on chapter 38 of you and your son are on chapter 38 of The Shadow Rising. So
Yeah.
how's your son? I wanted to ask you, how's your son enjoying the book
Loves it.
so far?
No, he loves it, but and this is why it's interesting, like hearing like some of your challenges with this book, right? Because Max has those challenges as well, and I notice it because we always listen to the book like it's sort of like a nighttime ritual, right, for him. And so like we'll like kick it on, like make him stop playing Fortnite, an hour before bedtime, and then we'll like chuck on a book and we'll just sit down and we'll listen to it, right? And then he eventually goes off to sleep. And so for the first few books, then the next day, I always like asking, like, what do you remember? What happened in last night's reading? And he'd always be able to say this, and he'd get into it. And the really cool sections of the Great Hunt and the Dragon Reborn. He'd be able to like tell me like word for word what happened, things that I forgot. Like maybe I've had too many reds and I've fucking passed out on the beanbag. That happens sometimes, right? And so he'd be telling me shit that happened. I'm like, oh, really cool. He's into it, right? But in The Shadow Rising so far, and it's just anecdotal, whatever, but like that hasn't really happened as much, right? And we're up to like literally just before the end stanza of this book. And so it is slower. And so for a first time reader, he doesn't notice as much stuff. And he falls asleep a lot quicker than what he has been for the other 3 books so far. So don't feel bad about it, Nuban. That's what I'm saying, right? Don't feel bad about it. It seems to me like that makes sense that would happen.
Well, I mean, the chapters are longer. I mean, this book is
She's chunky.
Is chuck and then the chapters are there's a lot in these chapters. So, but yeah. So yeah.
You're about to hit one of the best sequences in fantasy ever, and it really is. If you got a fatty, you get yourself just get stoned first, and then
finished 24. I just finished 24. So yeah. Like I said, if you're here, Matt just encountered the other doorway people, the Fox people. So now, and this is what Dane told me to look forward to. So chapters 25 and 26, the road to the spear and the dedicated. So curious what those are, but I'm assuming these are Rand chapters. I have to ask you. So out of the storylines in this book, so there's the Tanchico storyline. Yep. There's the Perrin goes back to the Two Rivers storyline, and there's the Ideal Waste. Which one is your favorite?
The Two Rivers.
Can't wait, dude. I can't wait.
It's so good. It's so good, and it hasn't even started yet. Like the thing is, in the next section, like you're going to read a whole heap of really cool shit for Perrin on that particular arc, right? But the cool stuff, the actual amazing shit, hasn't even happened yet. And that's what I was trying to say. Like we're at this chapter here, and we've just started like it's just like the start of the last act of the book.
Yeah.
And the best stuff hasn't happened yet. And I don't know how it fits in. Like as a long time reader, to get to this stage and I'm going, oh shit, this has to happen, this has to happen, this has to happen, this is gonna happen, this is gonna happen. I'm like, yeah, fuck, we've only got like a couple hundred pages like to go, and it's gonna be crazy. So yeah, but that is the best part. The two rivers arc for Perrin is so good. It's so good.
It's literally like 7 chapters in a row. Like it's starting 27 chapters 27 through 33 is all Perrin. So I mean,
yep, it is. It's all Perrin. It's not just all Perrin. It's growing Perrin. It's growing Perrin.
Growing Perrin.
Yeah, it's not just like Perrin that you know. It's Perrin that you discover. That's amazing.
Oh, okay. I'll definitely keep that in mind. So
it's so good, man. There's still chills. I'm getting some chills going up my spine. I'm thinking about some of the things that he does in the next 5 chapters. Fuck.
Because I'm assuming the things with Perrin are so impactful that
Well,
Robert Jordan gave him a whole book off. Like he had, I looked ahead. He's not in the fires of heaven.
yeah,
So I'm assuming he does something very, 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 very significant to the point where he
Well,
has he has an entire book off. Like he, yeah, like Jordan's like, you know what? I've put him through the ringer enough. I'm going to give him a nice break and all
it's not
that.
even about it's not even about the ringer. It's more about like his development of his personality, development of who he is as a man. It's just some of the best writing for like if you talk about masculinity in the world today and like examples of like how to behave as a man in society. You're about to see like the best possible examples of how to act as a man in the situations that parent finds himself in that you will ever read, and that every young man should read. To be frank, it's amazing. It's so good. Enjoy. It's cool.
Soulmate. I'm gonna keep reading. So we got thanks to, well, it's not just Eldan, it's the boys as well. Everybody's saying how great the series is. So um yeah, thanks. Last time a good night took this long. And again, there you go. I'll drink to that even though my glass is empty. Here you go. So all right, but so next up for me. So gonna try and get some video. I need to get started on some video content for the channel. There will be another Chillporeal will be a week from now, and there's a little preview. We'll show you who the next guest will be. So that's going to be coming up, and then of course a week from Sunday. So not this Sunday, but a week from Sunday, tentatively will be part 3 of the Shadow Rising book club. It's going to cover chapters 22 when Rand leaves the stone, all the way to 33, which covers that entire chain of parent chapters. So all this stuff. So I'm only three chapters in. I have another 9 chapters left for this block. So but as far as I'm concerned, we're going to do it early so Pips can join us, assuming he can make it at that time if he's not working. So yeah, and maybe I'll invite some guests. So we'll see. I haven't gotten the ball rolling on that. So but that's what's coming up for me. And I might play some of I'm probably going to play some Mario tomorrow because I haven't played the game in weeks and I think I need to do it. So me and Easton will probably be playing Mario. So
That's amazing. That's going to be great.
So even though some people are taking breaks because Wheel Prime just really drove the energy of a lot of our friends and all that. I'm still doing stuff and still
Staying nerdporeal, mate.
Staying nerdporeal. There you go. So everybody, stay nerdporeal and take care. Have a great night.